Today, I'm going to analyze beans again. It's been a while since I've done this. This is the most important thing that you can do as a chocolate maker. The samples that you receive is going to turn into the level of chocolate that you can make. You get bad beans in, the best you're going to do is bad unless you add a lot of milk and sugar. That's not the game we're playing. We want to make the best chocolate in the world. That means starting with the best beans and understanding what that looks like. I've got a lot of samples in front of us. We're going to just go through what the inner dialogue in my head is for analyzing beans. We're going to break them open, we're going to eat them, we're going to talk about what they smell like and what they look like. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. This is a sample that showed up to us. It's about 1 kilo. Usually we get somewhere between 500 grams to 1 kilo. You don't really need more than that to get a good idea, unless you want to do a few different test batches, which we only do one test batch. Sometimes we don't do any test batches if we have a pretty good idea or understanding of what those beans are going to turn into. But let's jump into this guy. Right away, just looking at the color, this is not good. And this was a real sample that showed up to us. I can't believe it showed up to us. It's covered in white surface molds. It's really gray. Not a good sign. Usually we want to see more of a reddish color. This is a good example of that. Just looking at the color, this is the first thing that we would do. This looks like it's going to be good. It doesn't mean it is. This looks like it's going to be bad, and it doesn't mean it is. It's just indicators. And so what I think this is going to smell like is musty and moldy and like an attic, like dirt. And because I have smelt this one before, I already know what it is. And that's exactly what it smells like. It doesn't have any of the vinegar smell that we usually look for that tells us that the ferment might have gotten hot enough or went well. In this case, it just smells like it's dirty and moldy. I'm not even going to eat any of these. I know it's going to be really bitter. It may be astringent, but just from the color and the smell, I'm not going to buy this. It's not worth anything. It's a commodity market bean, and yeah, this is probably what 99% of the beans out there would be as an average. But this farmer probably tried. Now I can also see there's a bunch of there's flats in here. There's broken beans. That's not. It doesn't look terrible. It's actually passable as far as what the size and consistency and cleanliness of them, except for the fact that it's covered in surface molds. So that's this guy. We're gonna put this one aside, and we're gonna move on. I got another big jar in front of us. So this looks kind of more frosty and covered in surface molds. It's got kind of almost like a purpley color. They're kind of small. Some of them are bigger than others. There's not a lot of consistency. It's so vinegary. It's an attack on your nostrils. It burns. Which I kind of like these beans. That smell. I know I can work with it. I'm now squeezing them. They're a little bit moist. I actually don't even know where these are from. We just have it labeled 2018 Harvest, which tells me it's probably something from Hawaii. The color and surface of these beans don't look good. The smell is interesting. It's also one-dimensional. It only smells like vinegar. That's not always wonderful, but I think that I could probably make good chocolate out of this on the initial smell. But now I'm squeezing it. The moisture level's too high. It's probably over somewhere around 9 or 10. That's maybe why it's continued to turn this color. Maybe it was a reddish color and it's now this because they didn't dry it to a proper 6 to 8% moisture where you're going to stop having surface molds grow. You don't want to dry it too much lower than 6 either, because when you're shipping beans, they're going to break into little fragments in the bag just because they're just going to get beaten up and thrown around, and then you're going to get your beans in and there's going to be a bunch of little nibs and shells everywhere. You can't make chocolate out of that either. So that's going to have to get sifted out or separated. So let's go ahead and try one of these. Most of them are hard. Usually you want to feel some puff in a lot of them, at least 50% of them. And these are all pretty hard, which means it's probably going to be more astringent. I also notice more fruity flavors when I get beans like that. So here's a big one. You really want to try a few of them. Oh, come on. See, this is not a good sign. You should be able to open them a lot easier than this. Soft, chewy, super fruity, kind of spicy, a little bit astringent. It's actually really interesting. So when it comes down to roasting this now, what I would do is I would roast it really light. Every roaster's different, meaning like the actual machine that roasts. And I'd roast really long, so light and long. For us, that might mean 230, 235 degrees, maybe 45 minutes. We just got a new roaster, so all our parameters are different now. It doesn't apply the same way. We're noticing that we need to roast hotter in this new machine, and it's really interesting. So initially I look at the color, I wouldn't want it. Taste, I think, is really interesting. I don't know where this comes from. Should have labeled properly. So this one, we've saved this for a while. These are interesting just because they look all right. They're completely unfermented. Like, did not ferment it at all. These are, you can feel just by squeezing them, they're all like little rocks. That's not good. You never want that. Oh, that one's got a little puff in it, but these are going to taste so astringent. And when I say astringent, that's excessive tannins. It's where your mouth dries out. It's really uncomfortable. If you were to eat a green banana, it's that like dry, all your mucous membranes are basically drying out, telling you this is not ripe, don't eat this. That's what these are going to have, and cacao often has that. I'm not going to eat any of these just because I already know what they're going to taste like. So it's important to ferment your cacao so it doesn't taste like that. So let's move on from that one. All right. These look great. I love the color of that. The size of them are really nice. The smell is really nice. It's not just vinegar. I get quite a bit of vinegar, but I also get like fruity cherry kind of flavors. And that tells me I can make really good chocolate. And so I know what this is already. This one is from Kona. We actually use these beans all the time. And it just won an International Chocolate Award at the Salon du Chocolat for Cocoa of Excellence. And for the Asia Pacific, it was the best, most interesting cacao. Now, every ferment at this farm is different. This was a particularly good one, and we made some of the best chocolate we ever did. And as far as roasting, once again, really light and really long. I want to keep everything. I don't want to burn away any of the flavors. I do want to develop chocolate notes. And so that's the other reason we would roast, is you want to make it start tasting like chocolate. If we were to just grind this up, it wouldn't taste very chocolatey. So let's go ahead and eat some of these. But you can see they're really clean. They vary in size. I know they're coming from different farms. And you can see right away, the shell gets removed easily. One hand, no problem. I didn't have to bite into it. It's dried properly. It's not bitter. It's super fruity. It's really balanced. I'm just getting those really nice cherry kind of flavors, like black cherries, and that comes through in the chocolate. So I can see why this sample won. Really nice. All right. Yeah, this is a nice one to showcase. Also from Hawaii. This is terrible. This is absolutely disgusting. Just by looking at it, I can see that things started to rot. I don't know if that was in the ferment or in the drying. It was probably a small ferment. It's probably, well, yeah, it smells like the fat started to rancify. It smells kind of like garbage. This would never turn into good chocolate. I don't even think I could add a lot of milk and sugar and make this taste good. So we would very much reject this. Funky flavors are not usually a good sign in cacao. So we're going to not even try that one. Now here's an interesting one. These beans look quite good. It looks like it's maybe a little over fermented just from the color. It's got kind of that brownish look. But they look really nice and big and well taken care of. When I smell it, it smells funky. It smells dirty. It doesn't smell balanced, but that's the right sign. When you squeeze it like that and it just pops, that's a good sign. You can hear it when it's dried properly. I'm a little bit afraid to eat this, but the only way you really find out is when you eat it. Now that first one is okay. It's very chocolatey. It's earthy. There's not a lot going on besides chocolate in that one. Now I gotta eat a few of them. But the nose, I don't like the nose on it. Yeah, that one's okay too. That's why you gotta eat them. The only true way to know is to eat them. But the nose usually tells you a lot. Oh, see, I get more of the funk on the end. These are still not bad though. I'll try one more. You want to taste? Ooh, oh, that one was terrible. That one was super astringent. Now, even in really good beans, you'll get the astringent bean occasionally. So it's not a really good judge if you only get 1 out of 3. But that's why you eat 10 beans. Or what a lot of people do is, it's this pile that I have here. You'll break open a whole bunch of. You'll break open a whole bunch of them and mix the nibs together so you know you get a representative sample from that batch. And hopefully, this was a representative sample from the farm, from the greater batch. Because if we're going to buy 12 tons or 6 tons or 3 tons, we really want some consistency in there without having to tweak our roast every time. No. This one I'd have to eat a few more before I decided. It was okay for chocolate. It would be a nice base chocolate from the 2 first ones that I had. But we're not trying to make okay chocolate, we're trying to make really good chocolate. This is another sample. Now this also looks great right off the bat. It's got that pretty red color. I think that is the first good sign. It's got a little bit of a vinegar smell. It's not super strong. It's dried properly. The shell comes off pretty easy on the first one that I grab. Let's see here. Nice base chocolate, a little bit of fruit in there. Balanced. It's not phenomenal the way I think this one is. This one really was special. This one's just good. It's really quite good. But you'd want to eat a few more than just one. So this was a sample that came to us. This is not a good sign. I see like 4 different ferments going on in here. I see quite a few different colors. This one got blended, so I can see that this is one ferment, this is a different ferment, that's probably another ferment, this may be another ferment. It all got mixed together. I see a lot of fractured beans, stuck together beans. That one's broken. It smells kind of dirty. Not terrible, but you know, when you see just like lots of little, this is worthless. These aren't going to turn into chocolate. I don't want those in there. So this is the difference between paying $3 a kilo and $6 or $7 or $8 a kilo. You really don't want to get something like this. It looks worth trying though. You can see here a machete went through this one, that one too. That just means that when they're opening the pods with the machete, it sunk through the skin and went into one of the beans. Not terrible, but not what you want to see on a sampled bag. You know, it's gonna happen, but you don't want those in your bag. Okay, let's try one. See, that one doesn't open really easy. There we go. You want to try both. You want to try the puffy ones. You want to try the hard ones. I think that one's kind of moldy. Yeah, you can kind of see it's a little bit moldy and slatey. Doesn't taste like much. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have eaten that one. I'm gonna try one more. You want to look at the bean before you eat it. This one looks fine. One-dimensional, bitter. Doesn't taste like much special going on. We would not buy this. Just by looking at it, smelling it, and tasting it, this gets rejected. This was another sample that we just got. It smells terrible. It doesn't look bad. It looks okay. But wow, it smells like trash. I don't know how it even got to that smell. I'm not going to eat these ones, but they look pretty. So you can't let one factor determine what it's going to be. And at the end of the day, you got to try them. But when it smells like that, I don't want to taste it. Oh, that previous one is still stuck in my mouth. Let's see. See, this one looks okay. Doesn't have that pretty red color, but it looks clean. It smells a little bit funky, but not in a bad way. It smells chocolatey. It smells really chocolatey. It's a bit bitter, but not bad. I'll try one more. Yeah, this stuff's all right. And this is something we would buy if we wanted to make more of a deep chocolate flavor. Personally, I like really fruity cacao, but I also like the cacao that's got that strong base chocolate note. Obviously, a lot of other people do too because it's the flavor of chocolate. Something like Tanzania doesn't taste super chocolatey. It's really acidic and bright and fruity. We can roast some of that out if we want, but I like Tanzania more just because it's unique and special as far as a contrast to something that's nice and base chocolatey. So I like having both on our menu, our lineup. But something like this from Kona, that's beautiful. That's what I think chocolate should start to showcase, is these wildly different notes that you would find more in like the wine world. So we want you to taste black cherries and raisins and citrus or nuts and spices. Like we had some cacao from Vietnam that had amazingly spicy, plummy kind of notes that was just so pretty and balanced, and that's what we'd like to see more of. So those are the unique and special cacao that we're looking for, but we do a lot of base chocolates. So our whole lineup, we do a lot of blends so that we can get the consistency and acidity levels that we would want, say, for our Hawaiian sea salt bar. There's 3 different origins that we blend in whatever ratios we feel like to get the very best chocolate we want. And so that's why it's fun to have a lot. Like wine does this all the time. Rhone Valley's always blending. Bordeaux is always blending. So there's ways to make better chocolate with blending if that's what you want to try and achieve. I think also the single varietals as far as wine or chocolate you can do really well with. So in the future with our farms, what we're going to do is we're going to be planting in blocks where it's just going to be this one varietal of cacao, and then we're going to have a whole nother, say a hectare or a couple acres of a whole nother varietal, and we're going to ferment according to just the flavors in that bean. Like if it's a white seed, it probably doesn't need a 7-day ferment. Maybe it wants a 4-day ferment. So we're going to be able to customize it to that. And at the end of the day, we're going to be able to blend from that farm however we want. If we want more acidity, then we're going to maybe do a different turning protocol on our fermentation, and with a different varietal than, say, a Criollo type or Porcelana. So that's another episode of Bean Tasting. I'm kind of tapped out. I don't want to eat too many more of these. I hope this was helpful, and happy chocolate making.